The wedding ring felt like a handcuff on her finger as she watched him sleep. Amber stood in the doorway of their bedroom, the manila folder pressed against her chest. Inside were photographs. Bank statements. Names of people who'd disappeared. Everything she needed to destroy Greg and expose his criminal organization. 6 months of marriage. 6 months of playing the devoted wife. 6 months of lying next to a man she was supposed to hate. The moonlight cut across his face through the window. He looked peaceful. Almost human. Almost like he wasn't the son of the man responsible for what happened to her brother. She should walk downstairs right now. Make the call. Hand over the evidence. Watch federal agents swarm this mansion by sunrise. That was the plan. That had always been the plan. Her hand moved to open the folder when something slipped out and fluttered to the floor. An envelope. Old. Yellowed at the edges. Her name written across the front in handwriting she didn't recognize. The postmark read 10 years ago. Amber bent down slowly, her knees cracking in the silence. The envelope felt fragile between her fingers, like it might disintegrate if she breathed on it too hard. The ink had faded but she could still read it clearly. Amber Richardson. Except her last name wasn't Richardson anymore. Hadn't been Richardson in 6 months. Hadn't been Richardson since she married the man sleeping 3 feet away. She glanced back at Greg. Still asleep. His chest rising and falling in that steady rhythm she'd memorized without meaning to. He always slept on his left side. Always kicked the blanket off around 2 in the morning. Always reached for her spot on the bed even when she wasn't there. Stop it. Stop noticing things about him like they matter. The envelope had a return address in Los Angeles. August 2016. The same month everything fell apart. The same month Trevor died. The same month she stopped believing good things could happen. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking as she slid her thumb under the flap. Already opened. Someone had read this before. Greg probably. But why would he keep a letter addressed to her? A letter from before they even met? The paper inside was thin. Cheap. Like whoever wrote it couldn't afford better. She unfolded it carefully and the handwriting made her breath catch. Korean characters mixed with English. Messy. Like whoever wrote it was rushing or crying or both. She couldn't read the Korean parts but the English was clear enough. I saw you today at the coffee shop on 5th Street. You were wearing a yellow sundress and you were crying. I've never seen someone look so beautiful and so broken at the same time. I wanted to say something but I didn't know what. My father just died and I'm supposed to take over everything he built but all I can think about is the girl in the yellow dress who looked like her world was ending. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to this channel for more like this. Amber's stomach twisted. She knew that coffee shop. It was right across from the hospital where Trevor spent his last days. She'd practically lived there that summer. On the phone with doctors. With insurance companies. With police who had no answers about the hit and run that killed him. The letter continued. I came back to that coffee shop every day for 3 weeks. Told myself I was there for meetings about my father's business but really I just wanted to see if you'd come back. And you did. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Same time. Same corner table. Same black coffee you never finished. I memorized everything about you. The way you bit your thumbnail when you were reading. How you always faced the door like you were expecting bad news to walk in. The fact that you stopped wearing yellow after the 2nd week. Started wearing black instead. Her throat closed up. She remembered when she'd stopped wearing colors. When Trevor's condition worsened. When the doctors stopped talking about recovery and started talking about saying goodbye. I wanted to talk to you. Wanted to tell you that I understood loss. That I just lost my father too. But I couldn't. Because my father wasn't a good man. He built an empire on other people's pain. And now everyone expects me to continue what he started. To be who he was. To do what he did. But I don't want to be him. I've never wanted to be him. And watching you grieve someone you obviously loved made me realize I don't want to build a life that makes people cry. I want to build something different. Something better. So I did the only thing I could. I paid for your coffee every time you came in. The barista thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. But it was the only kind thing I could do while my whole life was falling apart. The only way I could be near goodness while everyone around me expected me to choose darkness. Amber's hands were shaking so hard now the paper rustled. Someone had paid for her coffee that summer. Every single time. She'd asked the barista who it was and the woman just smiled and said she had a guardian angel. Amber had cried about that. The kindness of strangers felt too heavy when everything else was falling apart. The next part of the letter was harder to read. The handwriting got messy like the writer was running out of space or courage. I'm making a decision. I'm going to take over my father's business, but I'm going to destroy it. Dismantle it. Turn it into something legitimate. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if the people who worked for my father will let me. But I have to try. Because I saw you in that coffee shop and I remembered what it feels like to want to be good. To want to be someone who creates joy instead of pain. To want to be someone who could walk up to a crying girl and offer comfort instead of being someone she should run from. I'm leaving Los Angeles tomorrow. Going back to San Francisco to face everything my father left behind. I'll probably never see you again. But I wanted to write this down. Wanted someone to know that for 3 weeks a girl in a yellow dress reminded me that good people exist. That kindness matters. That I could choose to be different than my father. I hope whoever you were grieving survived. I hope you smiled again. I hope you found someone who deserves you in ways I never could. The letter ended there. No signature. Just a small doodle of a coffee cup in the corner. Amber couldn't breathe. The room felt too small. Too hot. She looked at Greg again, and for the first time since she'd married him she really looked. His face in sleep. The small scar above his left eyebrow. The way his hair fell across his forehead. The tattoo on his shoulder she'd traced with her fingers more times than she could count without ever asking what it meant. No. It couldn't be. But the letter was in his desk. In his private office that only he had keys to. Filed away carefully like something precious. And the doodle in the corner matched the one he drew on grocery lists. A coffee cup with 3 little curls of steam. Her legs felt weak. She sat down hard on the floor, her back against the doorframe, the letter clutched in both hands like it might disappear. The manila folder lay forgotten beside her. All those months of gathering evidence. All that careful planning. And she'd never once asked Greg about the summer of 2016. The sound of sheets rustling made her freeze. Greg shifted in bed, his hand reaching across to her side like he always did. When he didn't find her there his eyes opened. He saw her immediately. Sitting on the floor. The letter in her hands. The folder beside her. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then Greg sat up slowly. The blanket fell away from his chest. He ran a hand through his hair. Looked at her. Looked at the letter. Back at her. How long have you been awake? His voice was rough with sleep. Long enough. Her voice didn't sound like her own. Greg's eyes dropped to the letter. Something crossed his face too fast for her to name. Then it was gone. He swung his legs out of bed and stood. Walked toward her and she should have moved. Should have stood up. Should have run. But she couldn't make her body cooperate. He stopped 3 feet away. You weren't supposed to find that. Why do you have it? Because I wrote it. The words hung in the air between them. Amber's brain tried to reject them. Tried to find another explanation. But the evidence was right there in her hands. You're lying. I'm not. Greg crouched down so they were eye level. Summer of 2016. My father had just died. Heart attack. July 15th. I inherited everything. The businesses. The properties. The organization. All of it. I was in Los Angeles dealing with the transition. Meeting with my father's associates. Trying to figure out what to do with an empire I never wanted. Amber's hands were shaking so hard now the letter was barely readable. Your father ran a criminal organization. Yes. And you inherited it. Yes. Greg's face was calm but his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. But I didn't continue it. I saw you in that coffee shop and I was in the middle of the worst week of my life. My father was dead. Everyone expected me to step into his shoes. To run the operations the way he did. To be him. And then I saw you crying and something broke in me. My brother was dying that summer. I know. After I went back to San Francisco I couldn't stop thinking about you. I hired someone to find out who you were. They came back with your name. Your address. Your brother's name. Trevor Richardson. Investigative journalist. Hit by a car. Critical condition. Greg's voice was quiet. I sent money. Anonymous donation to his medical fund. $20,000. Everything I'd saved. The floor felt like it was tilting. Amber pressed her back harder against the doorframe. There was an anonymous donation. We thought it was from the hospital foundation. It was from me. I sent it the day I got back to San Francisco. The day I decided I wasn't going to be my father. Her chest hurt. Like someone was squeezing her heart with both hands. What does that mean? You decided you weren't going to be your father? It means I contacted the FBI. Greg stood up and walked to the window. His back to her. August 25, 2016. 3 days after I got back to San Francisco. I called the FBI and I told them I wanted to cooperate. That I wanted to dismantle my father's organization. That I'd give them everything they needed to arrest everyone involved. Amber felt sick. You're lying. Agent Patricia Wells. FBI. She's been my contact for 8 years. Call her right now if you want. She'll tell you. Greg turned around. It took 2 years. 2 years of wearing a wire. 2 years of gathering evidence. 2 years of pretending to run my father's operations while actually helping the FBI take everyone down. By 2018 everyone was arrested. The organization was finished. And I was free. Free to do what? Free to build something legitimate. I took the money from my father's legal businesses. The restaurants. The real estate. I kept those. Everything else I helped the FBI seize. Every illegal operation got shut down. Every person involved got arrested. And I started over. Amber couldn't process what she was hearing. Trevor died in August 2016. Right when your father died. Right when you inherited. I know. Trevor was investigating your father's organization. He had sources. Documents. He was going to publish an article exposing everything. Amber's voice broke. And then 3 days before it was supposed to run he got hit by a car. Witnesses said it looked intentional. Black sedan. No plates. Never found. That wasn't an accident. That was your father's organization killing him. Greg's jaw tightened. Trevor Richardson's article ran in a small independent paper. September 2016. It named my father's operation. Named routes. Named people. It ran posthumously because Trevor died before publication. Amber's stomach dropped. So you admit it? Your father's people killed him? No. Greg's voice was sharp. Final. My father died on July 15th. Trevor was hit on August 20th. My father was already dead. He couldn't have ordered anything. But his organization, the people who worked for him, were in chaos. My father ran everything. When he died, there was a power vacuum. Everyone was scrambling to figure out what came next. Nobody was thinking about some journalist's article. They were thinking about survival. Greg walked back over and sat down beside her. Trevor was killed by a drunk driver. Real drunk driver. College kid named Michael Webb. He panicked and ran. They arrested him 8 months later. He pleaded guilty. He's serving 15 years at San Quentin. The timing was too perfect. The article was scheduled to run September 15th. Trevor was hit August 20th. That's almost a month. Not 3 days. Greg's voice was gentle. You've been carrying the wrong date in your head for 10 years. I know because I checked every detail. I needed to know if my father's people were involved. They weren't. It was just a drunk driver. Just terrible timing. Just bad luck. Amber felt like the ground was disappearing beneath her. I was so sure. I know. That's why I kept all the evidence. Why I never threw any of it away. Greg gestured to the manila folder beside her. Open it. Look at what you've been gathering for 6 months. Look at what you thought would destroy me. With shaking hands, Amber opened the folder. Pulled out the photographs. Bank statements. Documents. That first photo. Greg pointed. That's me meeting with Robert Chen. He used to run operations for my father. You probably have him listed as current criminal. But look at the date on that photo. March 2018. That was the day he got arrested. I was wearing a wire. That handshake you photographed was me helping the FBI gather the last piece of evidence they needed. Amber looked at the date stamp. March 2018. 8 years ago. The bank statements. Greg pulled out another document. Those accounts were frozen by the FBI in 2018. They're not active. They're evidence in a federal case that's been closed for years. The list of names. Amber's voice was barely a whisper. All arrested. All convicted. All serving time. Greg spread the documents across the floor. Everything you've been investigating is from 8 to 10 years ago. Everything you thought was current criminal activity is actually evidence of crimes that have already been prosecuted. You've been building a case against an organization that hasn't existed since 2018. Amber couldn't breathe. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know you were investigating me until a month after we got married. Greg's expression was calm. You're good. Really good. But I've been trained to spot surveillance my whole life. You were accessing my computer at night. Copying files. Taking pictures of old documents. I let you do it because I figured you'd eventually realize everything was dated years ago. That you'd figure out the organization was already gone. I thought you were hiding current operations. I thought the old dates were decoys. I know. That's why I kept everything. Why I never deleted anything. I wanted you to see the truth. To see that I spent 8 years building something legitimate. Something good. Greg pulled out his phone. Showed her a contact. Agent Patricia Wells. FBI. Call her. She'll confirm everything. She'll tell you I helped dismantle my father's entire operation. That I've been clean for 8 years. If you think choosing to be different than your parents is worth everything, hit that like button. This isn't about being perfect. It's about seeing who you could become and choosing that person over who you were raised to be. Amber stared at the phone. At the FBI contact. At the evidence spread across the floor. At the letter that had started all of this. You saw me in that coffee shop and decided to go legitimate. I saw you in that coffee shop and remembered what it felt like to want to be good. My father spent his whole life hurting people. Building an empire on pain. And I was supposed to continue that. Everyone expected it. But I looked at you and I thought about the person who made you cry. About your brother who was dying. And I couldn't do it. Couldn't be the reason someone else felt that kind of pain. So you destroyed everything your father built. With the FBI's help, yes. It took 2 years, but by 2018 it was done. Everyone arrested. Every operation shut down. And I took what was left. The legitimate businesses. The restaurants. The real estate investments. I built those into something clean. Something legal. Something I could be proud of. Amber looked at him. Really looked at him. Why didn't you just tell me? When I walked into your restaurant 8 months ago, why didn't you just explain? Because you walked into my restaurant and I recognized you immediately. The girl from the coffee shop. 10 years older, but still you. Still beautiful. Still strong. Greg's voice broke. I'd been carrying that letter for a decade. Reading it sometimes when the FBI work got hard. When I wondered if destroying my father's empire was worth it. And then you were there. Real. In front of me. And I thought maybe the universe was giving me a second chance. A second chance at what? At being near you. At knowing you. At maybe becoming someone who deserved you. He stood up. Paced to the window and back. I pursued you. Asked you out. Fell in love with you. And yes, I knew you'd probably figure out who my father was. Who I used to be. But I thought if you got to know me first. Got to see who I'd become. Maybe you'd understand. You should have told me. I should have. Greg sat back down. But I was selfish. I wanted you to fall in love with who I am now. Not spend the whole time thinking about who my father was. And then you said yes when I proposed and I thought I had time. Thought I could tell you eventually. Show you the FBI files. Prove I was different. I figured out who you were after our 3rd date. I know. You know? I know you recognized my last name. No, you went home and pulled up Trevor's old research. No, you connected me to my father's organization. Greg's voice was steady. I know you've spent 6 months gathering evidence. Preparing to destroy me. Preparing to hand everything to the FBI and watch me go to prison. Then why did you let me? Because I thought when you finally looked at the dates you'd realize everything was old. That you'd figure out I'd already done what you wanted to do. That I'd already destroyed the organization. He gestured at the folder. And because part of me thought if you were going to leave me I deserved it. Deserved to lose you because of who my father was. Because of what I came from. Amber felt tears running down her face. She didn't bother wiping them away. I've spent 10 years planning revenge for something that never happened. Trevor's death was real. Your pain was real. Your anger was justified. Greg's voice was gentle. You just aimed it at the wrong target. My father was already dead. His organization was already being dismantled. There was nobody left to punish. So what do I do with all this anger? All this pain? If there's nobody to blame, what do I do with it? You let it go. He said it simply. You let it go and you decide what comes next. Whether you want to keep being defined by what you lost or start building something new. Amber picked up the phone. Called the FBI number before she could change her mind. It rang twice before a woman answered. Agent Wells. My name is Amber Richardson. My husband gave me this number. There was a pause. Then a sigh. You must be Greg's wife. He said you'd probably call eventually. You found the letter. How did you know about the letter? Because he's mentioned it. Said it was the reason he decided to cooperate. That seeing someone grieve made him realize he didn't want to be the cause of that kind of pain. The agent's voice was professional. Direct. I assume you want confirmation that he worked with us. Yes. He did. August 2016 through March 2018. Best cooperator I've worked with in my entire career. He gave us everything. Wore wires. Testified in closed hearings. Helped us arrest 43 people and seize over $200 million in illegal assets. Without him we'd have gotten maybe 10% of that. And since then? Since then he's been completely clean. Runs legitimate businesses. Pays his taxes. Hasn't had so much as a parking ticket in 8 years. He's exactly what he says he is. A man who inherited a criminal empire and chose to destroy it instead of profit from it. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't you tell me when I started investigating him? Because we didn't know you were investigating him. And because honestly his cooperation was sealed. We don't generally announce our informants to the public. Tends to get them killed. Agent Wells paused. Can you come to the federal building tomorrow? I'd like to show you the actual files. The cooperation agreement. The evidence he provided. I think seeing it would help. What time? 10 a.m. Bring ID. The call ended. Amber set the phone down. Looked at Greg. She said you're clean. That you've been clean for 8 years. I am. She said you gave them everything. Helped arrest 43 people. I did. She said you're exactly what you say you are. I am. Greg's voice was quiet. I'm not my father. I'm not the man who built that empire. I'm just someone who inherited something terrible and tried to make it right. Amber stood up. Her legs were shaky but they held. She walked to the window. Looked out at the night. I've spent 10 years hating you. 10 years planning to destroy you. 10 years building my entire life around revenge. I know. And now I find out there's nothing to destroy. That you already destroyed it yourself. That you've been clean the whole time. Yes. So what am I supposed to do now? Who am I if I'm not angry? Greg walked over. Stood beside her. Didn't touch her but was close enough she could feel his warmth. You're whoever you want to be. You're not defined by what happened to Trevor. You're not defined by what my father did. You're not defined by the revenge you planned. You're just Amber. And you get to decide what comes next. She turned to look at him. This man who'd written her a letter 10 years ago. Who'd paid for her coffee. Who'd donated $20,000 to Trevor's medical bills. Who'd seen her pain and decided to be different than his father. Who'd spent 8 years building something good from the ruins of something terrible. I don't know if I can forgive you for lying to me. I don't expect you to. I don't know if I can stay married to you. I understand. But I need time. I need to see those FBI files. I need to verify everything. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not planning revenge. Take all the time you need. Greg's voice was steady. I've waited 10 years. I can wait longer. Amber nodded. Gathered the files. The letter. Everything. Walked to the bedroom door. Paused. That letter. You really kept it for 10 years? Every day. Read it whenever I needed to remember why I was doing what I was doing. Why dismantling my father's empire mattered. Greg smiled. Small. Sad. You saved me that summer. You just didn't know it. Amber walked out. Down the stairs. Out of the mansion. Into the morning air. She got into her car. Put the files on the passenger seat. Started the engine. Drove to a hotel. Checked in. Lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling trying to figure out who she was when she wasn't defined by anger. The next morning she was at the Federal Building at 9:45. Agent Wells met her in the lobby. Showed her badge. Took her upstairs. The conference room had files spread across the table. Cooperation agreements. Wire transcripts. Arrest records. 8 years of evidence. Amber spent 6 hours going through it all. Agent Wells sat across from her. Answered questions. Provided context. Everything Greg had said was true. Everything. When she finished she sat back. Exhausted. He really did it. He really destroyed his father's entire operation. He did. And he did it knowing he'd never profit from it. Knowing he'd spend the rest of his life being known as the son of a criminal. Knowing people would always suspect him even though he's clean. Agent Wells leaned forward. That takes courage. Most people in his position would have just run the empire. Made billions. Lived comfortable lives. He chose the hard way. The right way. Why? He says it's because of you. Because he saw you grieving and remembered what it felt like to want to be good. The agent pulled out a folder. But I think it's more than that. I think he looked at what his father built and decided he'd rather have nothing and be clean than have everything and be a criminal. Amber left the Federal Building as the sun was setting. She drove. No destination. Just moving. Her phone buzzed. Text from Greg. I hope the meeting helped. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. You don't owe me anything. She stared at the message. Typed back. I need time. Don't contact me. I'll reach out when I'm ready. His response came immediately. I understand. Take all the time you need. 3 months passed. Amber got her own apartment. Went back to work. Started therapy. Tried to figure out who she was when she wasn't consumed by revenge. The therapist asked her once what she was most afraid of. I'm afraid that if I forgive him I'm betraying Trevor. That I'm saying what his father did was okay. Is forgiving Greg the same as saying his father's crimes were okay? Isn't it? Greg isn't his father. He actively destroyed what his father built. He chose to be different. Forgiving him for being his father's son doesn't mean you approve of his father. It just means you see him as separate. As his own person. That conversation stayed with Amber for weeks. She thought about Trevor. About what he would have wanted. About the brother who believed in redemption. Who believed people could change. Who believed in second chances. Trevor would have investigated Greg's father. But Trevor also would have respected Greg's choice to destroy the empire. Would have seen the courage in that choice. For months after she left, Amber made a decision. She drove to the mansion. The house she'd lived in for 6 months planning revenge. Greg's car was in the driveway. She knocked. Waited. Greg opened the door. He looked older. Tired. But he smiled when he saw her. Hi. Hi. Amber's voice was steadier than she expected. Can I come in? Of course. They sat in the living room. The same room where she'd gathered evidence. Where she'd planned his destruction. I've spent 4 months thinking. Amber said. About you. About your father. About Trevor. About what it means to forgive someone for things they didn't do. And I realized I've been punishing you for being your father's son. For inheriting something you never wanted. For carrying a legacy you spent 8 years destroying. She took a breath. That's not fair. You're not responsible for who your father was. You're only responsible for who you chose to become. Greg's eyes were wet. Who did I choose to become? Someone good. Someone who saw a crying stranger and decided to be different. Someone who gave up billions to do the right thing. Someone who spent 8 years building something legitimate even though it would have been easier to just run the empire. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. I should have told you everything from the beginning. You should have. Amber moved closer. But I also should have asked instead of assuming. Should have looked at the dates on those files. Should have realized everything was from years ago. We both made mistakes. So where does that leave us? It leaves us trying. If you want to. If you're willing to start over. No more lies. No more secrets. Just us figuring out if we can build something real. Greg stood up. Crossed the room. Took her hands. I want to try. I've wanted nothing else for 4 months. I can't promise it'll work. I can't promise I won't still be angry sometimes. I can't promise I'll forget what your father was. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm not asking you to pretend my family history doesn't exist. I'm just asking for a chance. To prove I'm different. To prove I'm worth the risk. Subscribe if you believe people can choose to be better than their parents. This isn't about erasing the past. It's about deciding the past doesn't define your future. It's about choosing who you become. Amber pulled him into a hug. Held him tight. Felt him hold her back like she was something precious. I read your letter about 100 times. The one you wrote 10 years ago. Yeah. I want to write you one back. Greg pulled away just enough to look at her face. Yeah. Yeah. Amber smiled. I think you deserve to know that the girl in the yellow dress thinks you made the right choice. That she's proud of you for destroying your father's empire. That she thinks choosing to be good when everyone expected you to be bad is the bravest thing she's ever seen. I don't need a letter to know that. You're here. That's enough. I know. But I want to write it anyway. Want you to have something from me like I have something from you. They spent the rest of the evening talking. Really talking. About the last 4 months. About what they wanted. About what came next. When night came, Amber stayed. Not because she had to. Because she wanted to. They lay in bed together. His arm around her. Her head on his chest. What do we do now? She asked. Now we build something real. Something honest. Something that isn't based on revenge or lies or assumptions. I'd like that. Me too. 1 year later they were still together. Greg's businesses were thriving. Legitimate restaurants. Real estate. Everything legal. Everything clean. Amber had gone back to law school. Finished her degree. Started working with a nonprofit that helped children of criminals build different lives than their parents. Some days were hard. Some days Amber thought about Trevor. About what could have been. Some days Greg carried guilt about his father's victims. But they talked about it. Worked through it. Chose each other. One morning Amber woke up early. Pulled out paper and pen. Started writing. 10 years ago you saw a girl in a yellow dress and decided to be different than your father. You kept a letter for a decade because it reminded you why you chose the hard way. The right way. I spent 10 years hating an empire that didn't exist anymore. 10 years planning revenge against a man who was already destroying what I wanted destroyed. 10 years building my life around anger. And then I found your letter and everything changed. You're not your father. You're not defined by what you inherited. You're defined by what you chose to do with it. And you chose to destroy it. To build something good from something terrible. To be someone who creates joy instead of pain. I don't know if love is supposed to be this complicated. I don't know if choosing you means I'm honoring Trevor or if I'm just choosing my own happiness. I don't know if forgiveness is the same as acceptance. But I know this. You make me want to believe people can change. That we're not defined by where we come from. That choosing to be better is worth everything. So here's my letter to you. 10 years late. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some things are worth waiting for. I love you. Not because you're perfect. Not because your past is clean. But because you saw a crying stranger and chose to be different. And that choice saved both of us. She finished writing. Folded the letter. Found Greg in the kitchen making coffee. I wrote you something. He turned. Smiled. Yeah. She handed him the letter. Watched him read it. Saw tears run down his face. When he finished, he pulled her into his arms. Held her tight. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. The real me. Not my father's son. Not the heir to a criminal empire. Just me. Greg. The guy who fell in love with a girl in a yellow dress and spent 10 years trying to become someone who deserved her. You deserved her all along. You just had to see it. He kissed her. Soft. Gentle. Like she was something precious. And in their kitchen in their home with their complicated past and hopeful future, that was enough. That was everything. That was home. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe for more.